Google is shutting down Stadia. I don't know if you heard about this.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So for those who are unfamiliar, I brought this up in the podcast before because I actually own Stadia, or I don't own Stadia. Google owns Stadia, but I own a Stadia controller and had a Stadia subscription. And basically, what it is a gaming streaming platform, right? So instead of your PlayStation with all the games that you own on it, you instead pay a subscription service and you purchase games through that platform, and then you get to play on your browser or on a Chromecast with their controller through their systems being streamed to your TV. So it's kind of similar in like concept to Netflix, right? You don't own or like play movies on your machine. It's being streamed from a machine somewhere else in the world to your browser. Um, Pretty cool idea, and it was like only like $10 a month. But it is shutting down, and it's only been alive for like 3 years,
Oof.
which is pretty crazy. So Google is refunding all Stadia purchases, hardware, software, and DLC. Members of the Stadia team will be carrying this work forward in other departments at Google. So I've been periodically getting emails of money just getting funded back into my bank account of every DLC I've bought, the controller I got, the Chromecast I got, any game I purchased. I've just been getting money added back to my bank account because they're refunding literally everything. So it's pretty. I mean, as a user, I'm surprised that they're doing that. Like, I'm surprised that we're
Yeah,
not
I
eating
can't
those
believe.
costs.
I agree. I
I
can't believe
basically
they're
just got,
actually refunding it.
yeah, I'm like, I can't believe I basically just got 3 years of free gaming.
Yeah.
Like, I like,
They're not refunding the subscription though, are they?
I don't think so. I think they're
Yeah,
just
I
doing
don't
hardware
think
and
they should.
games, which
Okay.
makes sense, right? Like, if I purchase a $60 game, the assumption is I would have that game forever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, I mean, it'd be weird if
Wow.
PlayStation was like, we're discontinuing our PlayStation, so you have to return all your PlayStation games. You know? So, um, yeah. So Google is shutting down Stadia, its cloud gaming service. The service will remain live for players until January 18th, 2023. So very, very soon. Google will be refunding all Stadia hardware purchased through the Google Store. A few years ago, we launched a consumer gaming service, Stadia. Um, Harrison said Google sees opportunities to apply Stadia's technology to other parts of Google, like YouTube, Google Play, and its AR efforts. And the company also plans to.
Wait a second. Hold on. How would they apply Stadia's technology to YouTube?
I have no idea, to be honest. Maybe like interactive videos or something like that.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's just the first thing that pops into my head, right? Because
Can't
like
picture it, but
Google Play, so it's all about like playing and interacting with something that's happening on a server that's not on your machine somewhere else, but it's being streamed to you. So like, I don't know, maybe what they're saying is like, okay, instead of downloading apps to your phone, you can save the app space and like be able to play games streamed to your phone.
oh yeah,
Like maybe
yeah,
there's
yeah,
something
yeah, yeah.
there.
So
Uh,
this wouldn't change much, probably from a consumer standpoint.
no, probably.
It might
Well,
just make you have less storage cost, which seems like a bad thing for Google to want to do, because a lot of their current revenue is like people paying for storage. But anyway,
yeah, that's true. Well, it would be more cloud based, right? So like people would be buying phone Pixel phones with less storage probably. But they would do things like, how iCloud has like the $3 a month like for
so you're
iCloud
saying
storage.
that it would benefit Google in that way because now they have to hold. But no, if you're saying the Stadia game, do you have to download it or you just buy rights
Stadia,
to it? No, no, like a game on Stadia.
you basically just buy rights to it. So it's like,
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. They're not you don't have to have any more storage space as an individual in order to play on Stadia because you're just buying the right to it. Google's holding those.
that's true. But I feel like in that scenario, it would just change the model. They'd probably change it to a subscription model than you purchase the individual app.
Okay. Yeah,
That's my
probably.
guess. I don't know.
Makes sense.
Google detailed some of the fire points in the shutdown of the FAQ. Refunds will automatically be made through Google. Um, Last year, rumors abounded it would shut down after the number of games released. The platform slowed and the company shuttered its in-house game development studios. So yeah, this thing happened very quickly. So they like released Stadia, and then within like a year, they were like, okay, we now have an in-house development studio. We're going to be developing Google developed games and putting them on Stadia, and then shut down. And like it seems like companies that were making games for Stadia were blindsided by it, because days after uh like the Stadia was shutting down, new games were still like having in their trailers that they were going to be releasing on Stadia. Like the games that released their trailer like that day or within the last couple of days, because it's like they didn't know about it. So
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy.
that is pretty wild.
Yeah, that's mostly it. I'm gonna give this website like a 7. This is a pretty good
I
website.
think it's pretty good. I like it a lot.
They
That's
have ads, but
smart.
it's very minimalist.
Yeah. That little smart whatever it is, it's moving with us is smart food. It's not the worst ad I've ever seen. It's not offensive to me.
Nah, it's not too bad. Not too bad. Um, but yeah, I find it interesting because I thought, I don't know, maybe it's like ahead of its time or something, but like I just thought that was going to be the future of games in the same way that like it seems to be the future of every other type of media that we consume. Netflix,
Yeah,
Hulu, Spotify,
I think it's
Audible.
probably ahead of its time, but I don't know when it's going to be a good, consistent experience for people to play online games specifically on something like Stadia. Because you told me like that lag is
It's pretty
unbearable
bad. It's pretty
sometimes.
bad.
Yeah, so like let's say I was wanting to play Halo or Call of Duty. These are or something like League of Legends. These are like split second decision type games where one decision that you make means you don't die in a particular situation. One decision means you do die. If that's out of your hands, no one is going to want to play those games. You know what I mean?
It's true.
So it kind of lends itself to a slower paced game period, and the slower paced games are not the ones that sell the big bucks. It's pretty rare that something like a Minecraft is one that like blows up into this huge game. Normally it's like the big cash cows are Call of Duty, Halo, something like Overwatch, where like people can get so far into the grind, and the skill gap from like a beginner to someone who takes it really seriously is fucking huge, because there's like so many different variables. Oh, dude, this is a such a sidebar. We're gonna come back to the Stadia thing, but dude, do you know what Smash is, like Super Smash Bros?
Yeah.
Like the old school.
Oh yeah.
So one of our guests, our first guest ever, who we're gonna have back on at some point,
Dude.
believes that this is the hard. Have you heard me argue with him about this?
Oh, I don't think so.
He
I
believes
haven't.
this is the hardest game ever.
The hardest game ever?
Yeah, that's what I said. So I want him to be able to I want to be able to talk through it on the podcast so that people can hear. So because I don't want to say his side of the argument, but here's my side of the argument real quick, just before we'll get him back on. Well, this will be a topic of conversation.
We should get him and Devin on the same podcast and debate us, because they both love Super Smash Bros.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so I think inherently a 3D game will always be more complex than a 2D game. Period. Period. That's like 90% of my argument. And then the other percentage is a single player game will never be as complex in terms of overall success rate and achievement from game to game as a team game is.
Oh,
Something
you mean
without spawn points. Yeah, something without spawn points that are variable and changing. Something without weapon drops on the map. Something without 3 dimensions, and something without team aspects can't be, in terms of like total possibilities of things that can happen that you have to control for, can't ever, like, I'm thinking about Halo, thinking about some Call of Duty games, so much harder inherently.
yeah, I mean, there's I understand why like somebody who plays that game a lot would feel that it's a very, very difficult game, because it seems like one of those things that's like it's very easy to learn, hard to master, right? The controls are simple, but if you're playing with somebody who's goaded, like it's really difficult. But
Yes.
you got to take in all the variables, right? Like the Super Smash Bros. Games, you can see everything that's happening on the screen, right?
Yeah.
Like in Call of Duty, you don't know who's behind you. Uh, there's just a lot, there are weapons with different stats in other games, and you got to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'd have to sit and like think about it, because maybe he's thinking about like raw like Twitch skills and
He's thinking about
not
input. That was a lot of his argument is around input and like input
okay.
per second and stuff like that.
Because I think there might be an argument to that, because Call of Duty would be difficult for a lot of other reasons. But I still wouldn't say it's the
Yeah, but I
I
pressed him on
can't
that.
say it's not the most difficult game.
Yeah. I pressed him on that and he kept coming back to the pure skill. But we're gonna let him defend himself because we're
Yes,
gonna have him back
yes.
on the podcast. So
We won't
I'm gonna let's
speculate too
come back.
much. That'll be
Yeah, no
interesting.
speculation. Yeah. So let's go back to the Stadia thing. Do you think that this is like you know how Facebook has turned into Meta and
Yeah.
they're trying to focus all their efforts on the metaverse? Do you think this is a red flag for someone who believes in the metaverse? And like this is what's going to happen to Meta as well. Because I agree that eventually this is probably where games are going to be, and I also agree that eventually probably the metaverse is going to be something that's very important and valuable to the world. I don't think in its current state it's going to be, and I don't think that in Stadia's current state it's ready to be like the tip top. I can play any game on this, and this is the way we should play games. Period. This is the standard. Do you think that this is it speaks to metaverse maybe not being something that's going to be adapted or adopted, I should say, soon?
Yeah, I think it could. I think we're realizing with like I think the metaverse is going to be a flop for like a couple of reasons. One, because I mean, who's heard of anything that's going on in the metaverse lately? Like that was such a big
No,
transition,
not
and like it
me.
seems like we're not hearing anything about it. Um, Two, it's probably not affordable. It's not something that like average humans are going to be able to use in like the near future, right? It's
Yeah,
going to be like top dogs of top companies that might be using it, but like that's about it. I think we're learning that technology has more limitation than we probably think it is.
yeah.
Think there is. You know what I
It
mean?
has a
Like
lot of limitations.
it has a lot of limitations, but there's a lot of potential. Like I think the what's good about a lot of this is we're realizing like, okay, internet is not as far as we think it is. We can't push it to the limit of putting like, giving an input and having that input sent to a server, and that server being sent to another server, and then that server sending back to Google servers to go back to another player. Like our internet is just not good enough to be able to handle that kind of throughput.
Yep.
Uh, and that's like the more basic thing. And then the metaverse is telling us that like, okay, like the technology is just not there yet for being fully immersed in a world to a point that it's going to be beneficial for anybody. Like I remember when um probably like the first VR headset came out, or like the first, not even VR headset. Like I think I remember there was some game on the Wii that was just like an open world, like you walk around and it was like advertised as like it's fully immersive because you have the nunchucks and you can do this and that. And it's just like
I remember that.
this is not what this is supposed to be. When people think about like the future, this ain't it. And it's like it's kind of just like the technology just isn't there. And I think that's what we're learning with all of these experiments, for lack of a better word, like the metaverse, uh, Stadia, and like, to honest, I haven't heard anything about it, but probably Amazon Luna, which is the Amazon equivalent of Stadia.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Like, I think we're
I
just
haven't
learning that
heard
the
anything about
technology
it.
isn't there
Yeah, I agree.
yet.
Yet,
It's
yeah.
certainly
So, what do you
possible.
think? It's 10 years out, 15 years out?
At least 10. I'd be. It's an interesting thought, because I feel like we went through a big dramatic increase in like technological innovation. I feel like there's something to be said. We might be like finding a plateau of some sort,
Mm,
because we're starting to realize like, oh, there might be more limitations than we thought, and we might have to dig in deeper to, I don't know, find different kinds of resources that can power
Two thoughts on
make
this.
make the energy that we need to be able to,
Yeah.
have faster internet.
Yeah. Two thoughts on this. So, number one, and these are both related to software engineering. So, this is not a personal attack on you at all. But I had a conversation with a friend of mine in probably 2019, maybe 2020, or before COVID.
I think I know who
And
this
I
person is.
said, I told them, I said, hey, I objectively believe that software engineers are extremely, extremely overpaid for the value that the individual brings to the company. So the value that the individual brings to the company, I think, is way pushed too far because of the technological innovation spike that we've been on. And I told them, I said, the more and more this becomes a coveted job, the more and more people are going to realize that, oh, whoa, now there's more competitive nature in the space, and that inherently pushes prices down, and salaries are either going to start increasing at a realistic pace and still stay high, but it's not going to be these crazy, crazy increases anymore. You're not going to be able to go from Google to Apple and
Like jump
negotiate
100K or
going
something.
from, yeah, yes, bro. People are going from 200 after 2 years, going to their second job in their second year of being a professional, which, let's be clear, most people don't know jack shit until like 5 years of doing something every day in and day out. And they're getting a 350 salary. What fucking value are you bringing to the company? So that has over this past year, the cuts have started to become very, very like apparent to me. And it's like, oh God, we're seeing it. We're seeing it. We're hitting these critical points in what we can do with what we have. And these people are just flat out not as valuable as they're getting paid. But the big tech space, like the FANG companies, have been paying so goddamn much for these employees who are doing the absolute bare minimum at their house, potentially working two jobs while doing it, making like
That's true.
900K. It's so stupid. Like, anyway, it's really, really saturated, and it's going to get more saturated. I kind of went down a rabbit hole, but my thought is the software engineer pay scale is so quickly, or has been so quickly increasing, that people who like the engineering type of work aren't going to be on the hardware side. They're going to choose to be on the software side instead, so that they can get paid more. And I don't have to go to the office. I don't have to fucking make these mock-ups. I literally can be at my house with my kids if I have kids, like walk downstairs and make lunch while I get stuck on a problem and get paid more to do that. So I think the limitations, we're going to be, it's going to hit a huge critical point where it's like, okay, the hardware does not support our software capabilities. And so many people are going to be so specialized in software that we're just going to be building things on clearly outdated, because of how fast the software is moving, outdated hardware. And the only people, in my opinion, who are close to like pushing it far enough is Apple. But look at what Apple's hardware has done over the past year. Like, what, 7 years? How much better has the iPhone actually gotten over the past 7 years? It's literally a meme.
Yeah, hasn't been changing that much,
They've
especially on the
done a
phone side. The computer side though is a bit different. I mean, they like pretty heavily innovate their. I mean, they make their own chip now. They heavily
It's true.
innovate their display, like pretty much every every iteration.
Yes.
Um,
And I'm not saying that the no progress is being made on the hardware side. But
sure,
what I'm saying is the progress on the software side is so fast that it's catching up extremely quickly to the hardware limitations.
it's gonna overtake the capability of
Yeah.
hardware engineers to innovate fast enough to keep up with it.
Yes. And then what
Uh,
what happens to all the software engineers when you're not valuable to a company, and you're not, at least, let's say you get paid 120. And if you're not bringing, at least if you brought exactly 120 of value to the company, you're a fucking terrible investment for the company. You know what I mean? Bringing exactly 120 in terms of value is very, very bad for the company. So we need to be like 160, 170, 240 in terms of value for that individual person. And it's going to reach a point, and I don't know when that is, where this situation I'm talking about plays out. And I thought it was going to be way sooner than it was whenever I was talking to this person. But then COVID just like accelerated and made this whole thing way
That's
worse.
so true.
So I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but yeah, companies like Nvidia, like chip makers, like they're historically slow at making a new chip that actually like matters for them to put out. You know, like it's like such a long fucking process to make these chips and actually make them better than the last one. So it's like there's already a choke point there. You know. Anyway, so that's a thought that I've had a lot, and yeah, I told him like I don't know if software engineering is actually a good idea as a career, as a job. Yes, it's a great job. It's a great job to have, but if you're trying to make a 15 or 20 or 30-year career out of it, I'd be scared. So that was my opinion to him. I could be way off, and these salaries could just stay elevated as fuck, and remember a lot of these stocks, these companies are publicly traded stocks. Investors care about profitability. And when they see that your total compensation to employees went up by 40%, but your profitability only went up by 8%,
That's true. Yeah.
everyone's going to be really mad. And then they sell the stock, and now you have less in your treasury that you can pull from. It's like it fucks them over. So they're infinitely and forever motivated to increase profits more than they increase expenses
Yeah.
and to increase profit more than they increase revenue. So if my revenue increases by 1 billion and that's a 10% increase, an investor wants to see an 11 or 12% increase in net income. And in order to make that happen, why does Apple beat their net income numbers, bro? Because they literally use slave labor. You
That's
know,
true. Yeah.
why can they pay the software engineers so much? Because they literally use slave labor. Why can Amazon pay their software engineers so much? Because they treat their warehouse employees and their drivers like dog shit. You know, and it is going to come to a head. I just don't know when, and it's good. I just don't know when. So
Maybe there's something to be said about like maybe that would be good from a like to bring in like the power of the free market of like these software engineers losing their jobs at all of these like big dog companies. Like maybe that's what causes more software engineers that don't have the ability to become, hardware engineers to start developing things that do compete against things like Amazon, because Amazon's profitability is going to start going down when they can't perform and they're overpaying software
yes,
engineers. So
yes,
then more things are going to come on the market, and it's like, okay, is Amazon the best thing for it? Because
mm,
no shame to Amazon, but their UI is kind of dated. Like
it is kind of dated.
if an Amazon like competitor shows up and it's got a very pretty UI, I mean, like I'd go buy my stuff from it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
there's something to be
yeah,
said about that, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because I think, Amazon, Apple, Google, these people own the market, and, it would be
yes.
better for software to be treated like that, like a commodity that is, in the free market and people can compete for it. So that would be a benefit
Good
to that.
point.
But I think I agree.
No,
I
I
think I agree
agree.
with
I
you
agree.
generally.
Yes, I'm not saying it's going to be the world's not going to end when this happens, but what is going to happen is, unfortunately, what you're saying, like a lot of layoffs and cuts, or literally pay cuts. Like imagine, you know, I don't know, man. I know people in my personal life who won't get a if they don't get a quarterly raise one time, they're out, like they're gone. Not even a question. They're like, here's my 2 weeks. Like if they have that meeting, they hear that, oh, company's in whatever spot and you don't get a quarterly raise. Cool. I'll
I'm out.
never see
Yeah.
you again. Yeah. Like, but imagine you get a pay cut. Can you imagine? You know what I mean? Gone. Like everyone's out. Did you see
Yeah.
that? I,
No
I
way.
can't remember what big tech company it was, but it was basically like, hey, we are opening up you laying yourself off. So here's an application for you to lay yourself off, and you get a 6 month severance, and you get this and that and this and that.
It's like the Hunger Games. I
I
volunteer as
know,
tribute.
bro. They were like, here's the deal. Like, we need to make some cuts, but we love you.
Oh
And
my
then
God,
yeah, so they were
dude.
like, you get this much severance, you can negotiate this much, blah 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 blah. Yeah. So it's happening like in front of our eyes. And I don't think the full magnitude of what I'm talking about is happening in front of our eyes. But like you said, it is a good thing. It is a good thing for moving the market forward. And I don't mean the stock market. I mean the economy, I should say.
Right.
It's a
Like,
good thing for moving the economy forward. The free market, as in when I choose to buy storage from someone, that storage cost is going to come down over time. You know what I mean? Because things are going to get easier. We're going to make better hardware. We're going to make better chips. We're going to make better computers that can run these things that I'm storing my files in, basically.
Yeah. It will just, I think it'll just shift. Like like I think software engineering was just kind of a luxurious career that was advertised over the years for, you know, a number of reasons. And I think that's why a lot of people chose to do that. I mean, money is one of them, but like if you look at all these big tech companies, they're putting a lot of money into like, you know, especially when they're in the office, like cafeterias and, you know,
Yeah.
gaming locations. And it's like, you can stay here forever and we want you to. Ah.
Ah,
And, but then also
yikes.
working from home, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So now we're
That
at a
seems
point
to
where
be
it's just
ending,
like,
though.
what, working from home?
Yeah. Snapchat just said all their employees need to come back.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
noticing that too. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Um, well, that might add, you know, push more people to go towards hardware as well because they're going to
Yeah.
be working physically anyway. And
Yep.
yeah, there's definitely going to be a demand for it. So
For sure.
that's interesting.
Yeah. Just some thoughts I've had just rattling around up there.
I definitely agree that software engineers get paid way too. Like I think about that from a personal perspective as a software engineer, and then also thinking about the type of people that I graduated with, where I was just like, I, what's a nice way to say this? I don't want to be a douche, but like, there are a lot of software engineers out there. Let me just put it that way. There's a lot of
Yes.
different kind of people out there, and
Yes.
different kinds of employees, and it's pretty radical that all of those people are likely making above, you know, six figures, which is pretty gnarly. So I don't
Fucking
know.
silly, bro.
It is pretty silly. What's going on, you guys? It's Sean from Your Best Friends. Thank you so much for watching this clip. If you're interested in seeing the full conversation, make sure to check the link down in the description. If you would like to see other episodes of Your Best Friends, go check out our full YouTube channel. We try to release new episodes of Your Best Friends every Thursday. Again, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.